On the edge of the barren planet of Xerath, the harsh twin suns beat down mercilessly. Every step across the cracked, arid landscape sent clouds of dust rising into the air. Water had become a distant memory in this wasteland. Captain Marcus Vale, the lone human in a group of alien travelers, felt the weight of dehydration gnawing at his body. His throat burned, his vision blurred, but he pressed on. He had to. The aliens he traveled with, members of a species known as the Zinthar, had not been prepared for the planet's unforgiving nature. Their sleek, scaly bodies were ill-equipped for the brutal heat. What made the Zinthar unique, however, were their companion creatures. Tall, graceful quadrupeds with long necks and wide, soulful eyes. These creatures, cherished by the Zinthar as sacred protectors, were faltering in the blistering heat, struggling to survive. The Zinthar leader, a young alien girl named Xerath, had done all she could to keep her pets alive. But even with all their advanced technology, the one thing the Zinthar could not create was water. The desert had claimed their reserves, and now Xerath's creatures were on the brink of collapse. As the group paused to rest in the sparse shade of a jagged rock formation, Xerath knelt by her creatures, her silver eyes reflecting a deep sadness. She ran her hand along the flank of her lead protector, Xerath, feeling its labored breathing. The other Zinthar whispered amongst themselves, casting worried glances at their dying companions. They knew the end was near. Marcus, watching from a distance, felt his heart tighten. His canteen, nearly empty, was strapped to his side. Only a few drops of water remained, barely enough to sustain him for another hour. The logical choice was clear: save the water for himself and continue the journey. But logic had never been humanity's strongest trait. He stood, unhooking the canteen, and walked over to Xerath. She looked up at him, confusion clouding her pale face. Without a word, Marcus unscrewed the cap and held the canteen out to her. Xerath stared at it, then at him, her eyes widening as realization dawned. "No," she rasped, shaking her head. You need that." Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he knelt down beside Xerath, lifting the creature's head gently. Its wide, amber eyes looked up at him, full of pain and fading hope. He poured the last of his water into his palm and offered it to the creature. Slowly, it extended its long tongue and lapped up the precious liquid, its body shuddering as life returned to it, if only for a moment. The other Zinthar watched in stunned silence as Marcus did the same for the second creature, his movements slow and deliberate. With the last drop gone, he stood, wiping the dust from his hands. His own thirst screamed in protest, but he ignored it. For now, the creatures would live a little longer, and that was enough. Xerath stood as well, staring at Marcus with something beyond gratitude in her gaze. It was a deep, unspoken understanding that transcended language and species. Her people had always viewed humans as unpredictable, reckless even. But in that moment, she saw the true strength of humanity, not in their technology or their cunning, but in their capacity for sacrifice. Without a word, Xerath placed her hand on Marcus's chest, a sign of honor among her people. "You have given more than water," she whispered. "You have given us hope." The desert stretched on ahead, and the journey was far from over. But now, the bond between human and alien had been sealed in the dust and the thirst of Xerath. Together, they would walk on, their fates intertwined in a way none of them had expected. And in the silent understanding of their sacrifice, they found the will to survive.